Welcome back to Success is Weird and Messy. I'm your host, Kathleen Gabriel. Each week, I talk with entrepreneurs about their business, obstacles they faced, and the changes they've made. Today, I'm joined by Trisha Singh, a fractional general counsel and chief privacy officer for startups, scale-ups, and small to medium-sized enterprises focused on healthcare and technology. Trisha, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So I want to know all about your business because I would love to know in your business, what's the difference between a general counsel and a chief privacy officer and just day to day, how are you working with these companies?
So it's quite fun, actually. So a GC has a little bit, so that general counsel has a little bit of a different function. They typically oversee all of legal, interact. I think both can be arguably interacting with all C-suite. Sometimes chief privacy officer reports to a legal officer or a COO, whereas typically the CLO reports or GC reports to a CEO in a company. I know with startups and scale-ups, like in smaller enterprises, you might not have like a fleshed out C-suite. Back to what a GC does. So overseeing everything legal day to day, strategy wise. A lot of what I do is, how are we growing? What are we want to enter a new channel of business, Trish. How do we make sure we're kosher from a regulatory perspective? So it might be long term strategy. How are our KPIs meeting this? What are the legal risks associated with that? How do we grow effectively in X country or X state and with a new user population? What do we understand with tech? I do a lot with technology. We'll do a lot of deals. How do we grow money wise? How could we raise in a sustainable way? How do owners keep their equity? I love that conversation. How to keep money where it should be, because there's so many different stakeholders, right, in these deals. And I understand, like, sometimes I'm like one of many lawyers, so I there's times where I like come and help in certain stages of a transaction as a GC, where as a privacy officer sometimes like you're working closely with cybersecurity if that function exists. So it's, a lot about data privacy, what's happening with your data, where is it going? There's a lot of rules that are new in this area, ensuring that you're meeting them. Where do you exist? What rules are at play given where you practice and where you engage with your customers, your clients? And I think a lot of it is, okay, so how are you protecting data? How are you using it? How are you collecting it? How are you storing it? How are you segmenting it? Is it appropriate? Like, what do things look like from a tech perspective? So, in that function, CTOs, CISOs are my best friends, CIOs. I just adore working with that side of the business. I think they're very helpful and really help with like war strategy. So I think that's sometimes a part of it. I do think these companies are that I work with these days are speedboats rather than the cruise ships of my past. So I'm very happy to be like building infrastructure and environment, which I think is really helpful for, facilitating success and high growth.
Well, with all of that, what made you want to go into business for yourself and be your own person out in the world rather than with a law firm? I assume you started with a law firm, most lawyers do, but what made you make that transition?
So I never actually joined a law firm. I
Step back.
Yes. I always say to people like my law school little mentees and folks. I try to interact with my law school. I went to a really lovely small school dedicated to just law students, and it was great. And I feel like I was the exception to every standard and norm that they set. Of like don't go in house, and that was my dream, was to be in house counsel, because I was raised by entrepreneurs and business people, physicians, like a lot in healthcare. And so that's where I started in house. And well, I started at the DA's office in Brooklyn. And then I went in house, and it was just, it was like, I'm like reliving those years, and it was wonderful. It was like I understand it was such a privilege, Kathleen. It was pure networking. I have a lot to be grateful for with connections of family and what they made happen. And I think the rest is just, being given great opportunities and taking life rafts where they exist. But I, was working in house, and I went to in-house role after in-house role. I stayed for quite a bit, but I felt like, there were times where I wanted to practice other areas of law, and there are gaps in the enterprise, to be honest, Kathleen, that there were some moments where I remember my first in-house role, I started having like a really wide breadth of involvement, because there was a point where I was the only lawyer for a subsidiary of a large parent. And I was like, yikes, Kathleen, I gotta do it all. And I had great outside counsel. So, you can't do everything alone, right? You use your resources when you have them, so like that was great. And then went to a larger shop, got really split. Like I was reporting to all these people and I was doing so many things that it just wasn't enabling success for me. And it also just so happened like my boss died 6 months in. Like I'm like the person who's had really crazy work experience, which is was sort of led to me being like getting a client. And meanwhile, I'm still trying to like get a new job. So like I'm interviewing every week while I'm in-house counsel at this huge company that like everybody thinks is amazing. And I was like, this is really not fun, and I'm not enjoying myself. I think life is meant to be enjoyed, even professionally. Like I think feel like people,
Yeah.
Kathleen, were like I had this one friend who coached me of like, people sometimes people just enjoy their life at home. Like you don't have to like work doesn't need to be fun. And I was like, but we're like it's supposed to be.
You're right that that's true, but that's not a goal. It's not a goal to have a miserable work
Yeah.
life. It's something that you tolerate when you have to. But if you don't have to, you don't have to.
I have a tendency of staying places too long. So like it won't look like from a resume perspective that it's like, oh, like that look why. And even then, do what you want to do. You'll come up with your
Yeah.
story. That's what I always think. Like you write your narrative. So I decided I got a client, so grateful. And then I just during COVID, I decided I purchased a business and I decided to spend some time away from my in-house role with my clients and the business that I owned for some of COVID.
Okay, so wait a minute. You purchased a business. What was the business you purchased?
It was a marina. It's a so they had like we were off of the main ocean, like off of a little river inlet, which was great, but couldn't bring like the 50 footers, right? Like the gigantic cruise ships, like, and that was the whole debate, right? Like the all of the components associated with water and how you handled large machinery and stuff, yada yada. But it had like large amounts of indoor storage, outdoor storage. My partner on it was like an engineer at the property. The marina had like this legacy. This previous owner was there like 50 years, and this legacy of great service work. So that's what it was. You sell the services. So I was like, okay, there's dollars. Like, so you have storage, but that's where the dollars come in. It's like you got to be a good salesman. And when you're not a good salesman, it's tough.
Yeah, so I mean, it's an obvious path from lawyer to marina owner, but tell me, since I don't necessarily know the way our listening audience would, what got you to marina owner? What was attractive to you about that business in that moment?
So it was presented to me with financial terms that I could consume, including the resources associated with it. I had a good team. I felt like we had investors on it for a piece of it. They were, to be honest, my mother and my partner's father, who were a broker. Like they're technically, my mom's a real estate developer. And her broker for many residential transactions was my partner's father. He was the one who presented the idea. I lawyered our way through it, so I consumed the expensive costs of all that. It was supposed to be something that turned into passive income, Kathleen, but it was
Right.
just it was like a heavy lift. And I have to say, like at some point, and I think that this is my like routine problem point with people, whether it's relationships, business, companies, leadership, everything, is like the inability to change. Like
Yes.
I'm a change
People
agent,
don't like change.
and people don't
Change
like
is hard.
change.
Like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we know this about business too. Like you've been in business, this is your fifth year. So kudos to that, right? Like and we understand what do we know about business is it's a roller coaster. So you must be able
Well,
to bear
you
the
have to be able
moments. Yeah.
to, yeah, you have to be able to withstand that. And also, I think a key thing that you said was it was supposed to be passive income.
Yeah.
And I think there's this illusion in the world that passive income is just out there for us to grab. And that's not really true. Passive income is pretty active, at least up front.
Yeah. No, and it was a lot up front. It was a lot. But
Yeah.
and I tried to explain to people how much it was and like I don't know. I don't know your thoughts about this too of like how do you adequately express the value that you provide at a critical point for that message to be received, understood?
And to me, every time it's the moment when people are willing to hear it because people don't engage with HR services that I provide until they're in that place where either they already understand why it's important or they're in so much pain that they know they need someone to guide them out of that pain and that is important. And I have not personally found a lot of in between. There isn't sort of that thing where you can come in and say, "Hey, I really know that this is important and let me convince you." No, people come to it at their own time, and especially since change is so hard,
Mm.
either one of us is asking the business owners that we work with to engage in a change process. We are asking them to make foundational changes in at least the way they see their business, possibly the way they interact with their employees, possibly the way they do business at all. And that is a big thing to ask of people. And so, yeah, absolutely. When you're partnering with other people on any endeavor, having a similar idea of what the buy-in is vital.
I wish there was a way to vet that. And I don't know. I don't know if you have any thoughts about this, but like in my experience, like the way to get to know somebody's character is to be in the trenches. And how do you simulate that? Right? You just got to do it.
You just got to do it. I mean, part of networking is a little bit of pre-vetting. So we trust people who are referred over to us because someone else has been in the trenches with them.
Right.
And so hopefully we have a similar enough idea of what the trenches means and what our values are and what we're trying to accomplish that when someone trusted says, "Hey, you should also trust this person in this way," that it works out. But there's no way to replace actually working with someone.
Yeah.
And sure, you can do some vetting and you should. Working with people without vetting is quite foolish. So the vetting will get you a certain distance, but it won't get you in the trenches. Only the trenches do that.
I also think trust is very hard, Kathleen. And I am not a trusting person already. So I'm trying this year. I'm really trying to take on some risk and trust. And I am very excited. You know, I started a cybersecurity practice with some colleagues of mine from many chapters ago, and this is literally our third iteration where we're finally going to market. And it was you're talk about like success is messy. It's because my heavy on it, my guy who's like the CISO of my board, my personal board, right? He got severed, and he's like trying to make it. He's like, I got to put food on my table. You know, this guy's like about. He's like he's can get Social Security. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't need to do this. And I'm like, let's do it, you know? Like and so I'm excited. We're putting out some interesting products, but this team, this is my first time doing business with these guys, right? Like I've talked to them about this for many, 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 many years, Kathleen. Many, many, many
Yeah.
years. You know, like but it's an interesting moment and you know, I hope it's a success is messy but upwards and I really do hope for good things. So
Yeah. Well, and with that, part of that trust is you have known these people for a good long time. You've seen at least from a distance what they do in their business lives. And that makes it easier to take the leap and say, yeah, these are probably the right people. And sometimes we don't even have that much. And we say, you know what? I need this kind of person right now. This looks like this could be the right person. And off you go.
yeah.
And that's true on every level because one of my clients was asking me, did I just hire all the wrong people? And the answer is no. No, they did not hire all the wrong people. It was, this is a different business than you used to have. And they were absolutely the right people at that time. But we really need to assess what business are you in right now and are they in that business?
Oh, I love that. What a great question. This is such a good question. Because, like, what do we, you know, you attend all kinds of panels, right? We're networking, we're trying to get out there. And I'm never going to forget this. This one, he was like the chief legal officer of my dreams when I was in my first in house job. Like, he was like the CEO, I mean, the GC of an airline. So, like, he had a house in Paris and he had a house in Dallas. And, like, you know what I mean? I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, I thought this guy was amazing. He, like, jumped into French and, like, I was like, oh my God. So he was like, retaining good talent is so hard, but like also allowing somebody to evolve with you as a company. There's so much that you have to take into account. And I love your approach because I feel like it's very human centric because it's like, let's remember And I think sometimes, Kathleen, that's
Yeah.
confusing to some companies because I'm like, how do you think we're going to get any work done? There's humans that do this. Like, there's human beings that are here. And yes, what do we know? AI is amazing. It's been amazing for many years. Like, there's so many functions that, are going to be automated to our benefit. But like, I think that
Yeah.
there's still a human that needs to confirm this. So like, you need to give them benefits in maternity leave.
Yeah, and that's the same thing as with anything. That the conversation with AI for me is, yes, it has a long way to go,
Yeah.
and yes, there are productive and destructive ways that it goes. But if you think about, I don't know, working manual labor in the field, and in the way back, people were using shovels to dig rocks out of the ground. Now we have backhoes,
Yes.
and you know what? We don't have automated backhoes.
Yeah.
There is now one person who is doing the work that used to take 10 people,
Hmm.
but people are still doing the work, and now they're doing different work, and that will continue to change and evolve.
Hmm.
And yes, it'll be weird and painful. And yes, I do want legal protections for the humans who are doing the generation that AI is taking
Yeah.
from and regenerating off of. All of those things, of course. But also, just like the internet, AI is here, and I don't think it's going anywhere. So let's find out where it's actually useful and good.
Yeah. No, honestly, like I'm so grateful. So I've partnered with my sister this year. So my practicing advisor, she's a fractional product officer and a marketing officer. So where I provide like legal, data privacy, she provides product, marketing, and we work together. She does a lot in data analytics and business intelligence, and it's such a fun. It's so fun to be able to protect that work and understand like the privacy and build the safeguards around it, just to secure all of this. And I also
Yeah.
think that it's a very special time for artificial intelligence, but it's been around for so long. My sister's been a beta tester for some of these products for 13 years, Kathleen. I'm like, she's
Mm.
literally like, where you been? I'm like, all right. And so she makes my life like easier every day. I love it. I think when we have lawyers who refrain from engaging with technologists, it's a mistake. Like we need to all become
Yeah.
best friends, just like HR and legal need to be like the best of friends. And I think I'm so grateful, to meet you this year. I think this is a really great connection. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and also, I mean, recognizing the limits and purposes of AI and other technologies right now. My favorite disaster story is lawyers who used AI to do their research for them, and the AI just hallucinated cases because AI isn't there to tell you the truth, it's there to give you what you asked for.
Mm-mm.
And you're shaking your head, and I'm like, "That's right." They got really in a bad way because the AI gave them evidence for their case that literally did not exist.
Yeah.
However, especially if there's a lawyer who, I don't know, doesn't write as well, that's not their top skill, using AI to put together thoughts and ideas and then reviewing it so that you're spending, I don't know, 15 minutes instead of 3 hours on something, that sounds like a win to me.
Yeah, saves you time, saves your client money. Love it. That's what I mean. If you can just marginally assist, like I think at some point, sometimes I advise on this too, Kathleen, of like, what's the value, what's the future strategy of this? I really would love for all the baseline level work, if I could just practice at the highest height of my profession. That's what you want to pay me for. Like for the strategy, for the longevity, how are we building this? What's the overall? Well, how is everything reading into each other? You can't just live in a silo. Like that's not life. But I have to say, like when we talk about, I love your analogy and your explanation of like working and humans. And I just wanted to, I heard this, I was attending this event and this professor at NYU Stern, I graduated from Stern. It was Professor Arun Sundarajan. He was like, in the 1800s, there weren't that many healthcare workers. But today, guess how many there are? The population of people that work will change to meet what is the needed of the market. I think we are as much as we are adverse to change, we will evolve and we will grow for the betterment of us all. Like in the United States, our whole purpose is to export intellectual capital. Maybe you do that as you're doing with your clients today, like as I do with my international clients as well. Like it's amazing.
The paradox of the human condition is that we are extraordinarily good at adapting.
Yeah.
Human beings can adapt to anything,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
also we hate it. And and so it's so funny to be so skilled and so made for something that we are also so averse to.
Yeah,
But yeah, when change comes, we meet the change.
yeah.
And we may not want to, and frankly, if we choose not to, then we're left behind in ways that aren't necessary.
What a breath of fresh air. This is it. That's what I needed to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you've been making a ton of changes. Like, it sounds like your business wasn't just this straight arrow, one and done, "You know what I'm gonna do
Yeah.
is be general counsel for companies and brush my hands off, and that'll be fine and easy." You've been in multiple businesses, you continue to be in multiple businesses. How do you balance all of that? Or do you?
I think it's an opportunity to explore different parts of your personality. And I think it's also like times when it was the same thing as when I first wanted to have clients and I wanted to have my own practice. I was like, at some point, I just did it. Sometimes it took me like 2 years to do that. But like, of like having my clients doing it at night, working off of my husband's laptop, like, come on, you're a lawyer. What is this even? But I think, this year it's a bit of I need some clients and I gotta maybe become the client that I need. I don't know. And I think sometimes I think like legal services are expensive, for organizations, and I want to acknowledge that. But I also think if that's something I can consume, maybe I can build in heavily regulated industries or help those areas. I don't know, like isn't that like the dream, right? To be able to build so much that you can constantly help people.
Yeah.
It's my someday and some of the ideas are great, Kathleen. I'm like doing some work with like nonprofits and for profits this year, and all the regulatory issues of my past and the companies I supported. Now I can like build well from the ground. I feel very excited about these opportunities, so I hope they work. I do think like change in general. Like I used to joke around in when I was in house, like the companies I supported, there was like a change every quarter, and then all of a sudden it was every month, and then like at CVS, like in previous chapters, it was like every week, and I don't know. Now I'm just like I find it on a day to day basis, and I'm like it's what we're saying too, like your ability to surf and stay afloat and maybe not think about the fact that you're drowning or something and like try to grab life rafts where you can. Like I don't know, but we have a long journey, right? Like we hope to exist and serve and protect, for many years to come. So I'm trying to also appreciate. I really like multiple revenue streams.
I think that is smart. I think it is smart to have multiple revenue streams because it is rare, especially as a solopreneur, when you're out there and you can only do one thing. And that's the one thing that everyone wants to buy from you, and you just keep going forward. And I don't know that it is said enough in the world of business that, look, lots of people do lots of stuff.
Right.
There isn't one way to succeed. And if you're interested in lots of things, leverage that. Why not?
Yeah. And it's also like, it makes me happy. And I feel like I'm trying to also embrace learning. I feel like we must always learn and grow and learn how to, be better and reflect upon that. And so I want to, take stock of that. I also like, personally had a baby last year. So I'm trying to, continue to figure out what like my chapter is with being a mother and having growing a family and having my own work. And how do I do that in a way that's authentic to me, Kathleen, because like, everybody has their own styles and I want to do so I can live a life where I can, it can be convenient to me and I can figure out a way. Like I worked around my baby last year. I didn't take a
Yeah.
maternity leave, and I'd like
Oh,
to
wow.
throw that out if anybody actually wants to have that conversation of what that was like to structure. It's not for everybody, and I feel like I had the system for it and the clients, and it worked out. And also, Kathleen, like trusting somebody, to take on that
Yeah.
body of work. Like I serve a lot of different functions for a company in terms of law. Like there's times where what I consume could be split between like, seven different lawyers, so then I'd have to find all those resources. So it was like, it's a bit.
And I think that that's true. I feel like having a baby is the most blatant and well understood moment in a person's life where it's like, well, things are going to change and I'm going to have to work around this in one way or another, whether that's leaving the workforce temporarily or permanently, whether that's taking time off, whether that's, as you did, working around this entire huge change in your life. But those are all options and all ways that we can, manage these changes. And everyone's going to have some kind of dramatic change.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to take care of a parent.
Hmm.
Maybe you move
Yes.
across the country. Maybe. There's so many things that can happen. So just being able to acknowledge and roll with that change is so important. And yeah, and with that, like, so it sounds like you've made a bunch of changes, made a bunch of choices, run different businesses. What do you think is the biggest change that you've made, or maybe the biggest obstacle that you faced? Was it working around having a child, or was it something totally different?
You know, I'm thinking, I guess it's like when I need to alter my circumstances because my circumstances won't alter for me. So you
Yeah.
embrace change. I think my biggest struggle is when clients are adverse to change and they might say that they want something and they want to grow and they want to transform. I literally have been on teams where it's the transformation team. Like that's the kind of lawyer I am. And so I'm like, you want to evolve? Let's do this. Let's get to the next. It's like what you're talking about when we talk about these categories. Okay, so you went from good, good to great, and then great to Olympic. So where do we want to be in that? Where do you want to support?
And so often I've worked with people who at least start out with this idea of, hey, I want to change the outcome, but I don't really want to change the circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, the inputs must remain the same, but
Hmm.
the outputs must be different.
Yeah.
And you have to reach a point of, where those outputs come from?
Yeah.
It's it's from those inputs.
Right.
And so if you want to change, you need to actually change.
Yeah.
Well, with all of this, Trisha, how do you define success?
I think success is freedom and opportunity and abundance and like whatever the way that means to what that means to you, if that's like food and shelter. Like lately I've been like, this is a very big growth year for me, Kathleen. Like there's a reason why I'm trying so many things because I'm like, it's time to grow, it's time to change. Like everybody's got to get more independent. That's what I was saying to my kid. I'm like, I gotta go and do things and fly a little bit or like, have resources that can fly for me and I'm like their on the ground operator. You know what I mean? Like let's figure it out. But I think yeah, I think prosperity, but I think abundance, whatever that is. I think travel is beautiful when I can travel. I find it like is one of my greatest hobbies in life. So I hope, we enjoy some more of that this year, but I understand that's also privileged. So I appreciate that. And I think that success is also energy. I think that, having an abundance of energy, my God, what success. So like however you got to preserve that, grow it, grab it.
I will say that is something that I'm working on myself this year. Is I really did a refocus of, yes, I need my business to grow. That's all part of being an entrepreneur, being in business, but also I need to work on energy and joy.
Mm,
And so those are my real focuses. And lo and behold, just like everyone tells you, as soon as I started working on that, my business started growing. And I'm like, well, fine.
I love that. What a gorgeous message. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Trisha Singh. Thank you for joining me today. Where should people find you online?
I'm working on my website, so I'll send that out. It's revamping, but LinkedIn, please connect, and we'll be sure to share this.
Okay, terrific. We'll
Yeah.
we'll have your links in the show notes. And hey everyone, thank you for listening. You can find Success is Weird and Messy wherever you get your podcasts. And it helps us so much if you follow, rate, and review. And if you like the show, tell a friend. We'll see you next week.